What's up, everyone? Welcome to State of the Realms, your weekly news for everything Camelot Unchained. I am your host, Swiper, and today I want to talk about mages. So if you were unfamiliar or haven't been following this channel, this past weekend, I see you did a presentation on mages. This presentation went over 90 minutes, so I just want to give a brief overview of what they talked about, and I'd also like to go over 4 questions that were asked. Okay, so what are the 3 mage classes they talked about? Let's start with the Ithurians first. So the Ithurians get a class called the Flame Warden. Now, within its name itself, you probably already know, it's going to be a mage that utilizes fire damage. They also said that they'll have utilization for dots as well. So on the screen, you'll see what they presented in their presentation. You'll see some of the components that you could craft. And I'll go over this a little bit further down the line. You know, you'll see some things like shapes, and you'll see other things like runes and focuses and infusions. So if you're unfamiliar with some of these topics, just stay tuned and we'll go over them. Okay, and introducing the second mage, the Druid. Now, the Druid will be on the side of the TDD, and I can never pronounce that, so I'm gonna just say TDD. Their weapon is the Scepter, and the magic they utilize is Chaos and Void. So looking on the screen here, you'll see that there's some similarities and there are quite a few differences as well with these components. And like I said, we'll kind of get into this a little bit more further down the line here. Okay, and bringing up the last mage, the Wave Weaver. So the Wave Weaver will be on the Viking side, and their weapon of choice will be the Gauntlet. So I believe this is going to be not necessarily a glove. It's going to be something that, you know, you put over your glove. And I'm really interested to see what this is going to look like in the game. And they didn't have the art to show us, unfortunately, yet. So hopefully we'll see that soon. And the magic they'll be wielding will be water, wind, and frost. So as you can see between the 3 mages, they're very different spell-wise, weapon-wise. So that's a great sign already. Alright, now that we have the 3 mages in place, let's talk about how they're going to work in this game and how it's all going to come together. So first, in general, let's talk about boons and banes. If you're new to this game and you don't know what boons and banes are, a quick synopsis here is a boon is something that gives you advantage over your opponent, and a bane is something that gives you a disadvantage over your opponent. It's a way to balance out your character overall, and this is something you pick while creating your character. Now, let's move on to the ability builder. So up on your screen, you're on the left-hand side, you're going to see 3 banners: melee, magic, and archery. So what they said in their presentation is, as a mage, you know, you'll go down the magic line and you'll be able to create abilities and put all these components together. But they also said, if you want to be melee, you can go ahead and select that melee banner and you'll get options to be a melee mage and as well as an archer. Now, later on in the presentation, they talked about other categories like throwing weapons, shouts, songs, and other things that I might be missing. But it sounds like overall, you get more benefits from using the initial weapon that you've been given for the class. Now, I'm not exactly sure on all the details upon this. I just recall remembering hearing something from a prior video that they did stating that, yeah, sure, you can use another weapon, but you're not going to get all the benefits that you could get as if you were to use, say, you know, the focus item that you were given, which makes sense to me. I mean, they're giving you a choice and you can do it with what you want with that choice. But overall, I think I like the idea. All right, so moving on to the next topic here. Let's talk about the actual components and how you create a spell. So let's go over the components, right? There's the rune, there's the shape, there's the focus, and then there's the infusion. And also there's the cool things you can do with the spell once created. So let's start with the rune. So what is the rune? The rune is basically what the spell is going to do, or what you want the spell to do. Do you want it to just be straight damage? Do you want it to leave a dot? So this is like kind of the meat of the spell, and this is where you'll be choosing it. So the next category is the shape. So the shape is how this spell is delivered, meaning is it going to be like a dart? Is it going to be a projectile? Or is it going to be an AoE? So this gives you a lot of customization functionality with just these 2 beginning parts. So let's move on to the third item, the focus. So the focus is essentially the weapon that you're using, right? And there are going to be different types of focuses in this game. So you'll have different types of maybe elemental scepters or elemental wands. And, you know, they'll provide different aspects to the gameplay in accordance of also what you decide and what you pick for all these spells. So it's going to add even more customization to what you're doing. And the last one I'd like to talk about are infusions. So I remember talking about this before and I was way off. And I remember somebody in the comments was like, yo, dude, this is more like a consumable. And I was like, oh, shoot. So anyway, basically what this is also going to be is this is going to be like another added bonus. But to use this, you need to have it in your inventory. So you can get these special I don't want to say components, but maybe items or consumables. Yeah, it's consumables off of enemy players or maybe even mobs. And one of these infusions could add maybe say a knockback. So when you use this spell and you hit somebody and it, consumes that consumable, you'll knock them back as well. So it adds a lot of unique characteristics to your spells as well. Now, once you select all these and create your spell, you're going to have the power to name the spell and also pick the icon for the spell. So it's going to be pretty crazy and wild to see what people are naming their spells and everything like that. All right, and the last two items I want to talk about are the ability book and the ability metrics. So think of the ability book like your spell book. When you create a spell, that spell is going to get recorded in your ability book, and then from your ability book you can drag that spell obviously onto your bar, just like every other MMO out there. But if you really focus in on the picture that I'm showing, you'll see that the spell actually has all the components listed underneath it or to the side of it, and each component has a little XP bar. So what it sounds like they're doing is the more times you use that spell, the more you'll level up. So I think that is a way of tracking your progress and seeing like, oh, okay, like how much closer I am to like leveling this up. Now, I don't know all the details about what happens after you level it up or whatever, but I'm sure we'll talk about that more, later on. Now, the next thing, I gotta be honest with you guys, this thing blew me away. Like I was shocked, and maybe other people knew this was in the game, but I honestly was shocked. So basically, they said it's the ability metrics, right? So I don't know if it's going to be in the same book or in a different category, but whatever. I don't think that really matters. So what this is going to do is it's going to record statistics on the abilities that you create. And they said basically it's going to record things like how many times you've used it against a certain class. How much damage did it do? How much, damage did it do like for that day or for 24 hours? They said something along those lines. And after a few days of doing this, you can really see okay, this spell I created, I'm using this 50% of the time, right? It's doing this much damage. And then this spell I created, I use 5% of the time and it does no damage. What am I doing here? I need to do something different, right? So it really helps you min-max, and it's just wild, man. When I saw this, I started really getting giddy inside, and I'm just wow, dude, this is awesome. This goes well beyond a damage meter, and I personally don't even think a damage meter would be useful, but I'll save that for the question section because that actually came up. So again, I'm just blown away. Okay, let's move on to the next section here. All right, guys, starting with question number 1. How much more effective will skills become over time and practice? So basically, I think what this person was trying to ask was hey, if I've been playing for, let's say, a year and somebody brand spanking new comes in, what is the difference going to be between that player and myself? So overall, I think the message that CU always wanted to come across is saying, hey, if you're new, this game is going to be more skill based, right? And somebody that's been in the game a lot longer than you isn't just going to come and blow on you and kill you like in other MMOs, right? So they were throwing some numbers around saying, hey, maybe you'll be 20%, 30%, stronger overall. But right now they haven't done the whole balancing thing. Because they want to test out more classes, test out the ability, see how everything works out. And this is something that they'll balance over time. And also, they'll ask for our feedback and see what we think. So I think overall, I think they've got a handle on this, and I think they've got the right mindset. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, further on down the road for this one. All right, moving on to question 2. If I had 70 abilities, would the similar ones have the same cooldowns? So this was a great question, and the answer in my opinion was awesome. So here's the answer. If you have two abilities that use the same shape, or if you have multiple abilities that use the same shape component, then the components with the same shape are going to be put on cooldown. Meaning if you make two projectiles and you use one of those projectiles, that other spell that you created with the projectile is going to go on cooldown. So this is really going to force you to be creative and use different components and sculpt your character around these types of cooldowns and these things. And I just think that's awesome. They also said overall, when creating these abilities and giving abilities and things such as that, they want to try and limit the cooldowns as much as possible. So that's also another positive thing that made me really happy listening to this today. All right, moving on to question number 3. When comparing the runes to the shapes in the ability builder, the runes seem to be more generic and basic. Will more be added to the game? And the answer to this was basically yes. And the explanation behind this as of right now was they're trying to get out as many classes as they can. And when they release a class, right, it's going to be more basic than what it's going to be when we get the final product, right? And their reasoning behind this is they want to give you a basic idea of what this class is going to play like, and then they want to see us play it. They want to test it. They want to see how it reacts to other characters, and this will give them a better idea of what they can add and what they have in their mind already. Should it be added or should it not be added? So I think what everybody has to remember, again, that this is like a legitimate beta 1. This isn't like retail beta 1 where the game is basically made and they're just letting people play it for the heck of it and testing out like, oh, how many people can we handle when we have to launch this game soon, right? This is a real beta. So what you're seeing right now is beta. So let's just keep that in mind, everybody. And it's a good question, and I'm glad it was asked because it's just further confirming that, hey, this is where we are right now, and don't worry, we're going to be adding more. There's going to be more unique things to this game. But right now, this is what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish so we can get to that point. All right, and for the last question, will we see more unique mechanics per class? So this kind of goes along with the answer from the prior question. Again, a lot of the classes that we're seeing now aren't fully built out, right? And a lot of what they have are very basic. Now you might see some unique features, like the Stone Healer has an ability where they can lift a stone up in front of them, and I don't think the other classes necessarily have that, so that is something unique to them. But eventually, once more classes come out and, once more testing has been done, we'll start seeing a lot more unique spells and skills like this. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for me today. I hope you like this synopsis of the presentation. One thing I do want to reiterate. Now, do you recall when I was talking about mages and how they could select melee, magic, or archery? I also said somewhere along the lines that they were adding new banners like songs and throwing weapons. Well, just keep in mind, I think these banners are going to be class specific, so I'm pretty sure mages aren't going to have access to these types of things, but I could be wrong. This is a question I'll ask next time around when I can get in. So anyway, hey, if you liked this video, please hit the like button, and if you want more updates like this, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks, and have a good one.